Today I am going to share a little bit about desert mistletoe with you. So, as most of us have heard, mistletoe is poisonous. Don't eat mistletoe. Well, and while the branches and stems of desert mistletoe are still highly toxic, amazingly enough, there is a berry that grows in the middle of the desert on this desert mistletoe that is edible. And it has a slightly, it's not a super sweet berry. It is very gelatinous inside, and that's how you're gonna know that you found the right berry. So within here, the seed just slides right out, and it's so sticky. I try to get it off my finger, and it just sticks right to my finger. So that's how you know that you found the desert mistletoe. So here is the desert mistletoe right here, hanging in this cat claw acacia tree. So the cat claw acacia is known by its thorns that look similar to rose thorns or cat claws. It has these little leaves that are bilateral on here, and this acacia tree will make edible seed pods that can be ground into flour. So you have two food sources right in one location, with the desert mistletoe berries that are edible, and then the cat claw acacia that is also edible. So the mistletoe, the gelatinous seeds of the mistletoe, actually get passed from tree to tree by birds, either sticking to their beaks and they're wiping the seed pods off onto other trees, moving the mistletoes and spreading it, or through the birds' droppings. So the cat claw acacia tree is a host of mistletoe, along with mesquite and ironwood. So the great thing about knowing if you have found the right host for the desert mistletoe that is in an edible form is to find a tree with leaves that are similar to this. And Travis, I'm sure, will get a close-up of the leaves for us. So if it has these little eyelet leaves, the ironwood, the mesquite, and the cat claw acacia all have very similar leaves, and which makes the desert mistletoe, if it is on that sort of a host, edible. Now here's the tricky thing. If you find desert mistletoe on Palo Verde, it is not edible, as well as the desert buckthorn. So we actually have Palo Verde right here, right above me. I'm not sure if it's in the picture, but this green branched plant right above me is the Palo Verde. And Palo Verde simply means green stick. So if the desert mistletoe is on the Palo Verde as a host, it is inedible. But the great thing about Palo Verde is once it starts flowering, you can eat those flowers, and the seed pods are also edible. The Palo Verde you can eat raw in the green state. They taste almost like edamame or peas. And once dried, the Palo Verde can be made into a flour as well and be made to make little cakes or floured goods, anything that would require flour. So right in this one location in the middle of the desert, we're in a wash, which is why there is such an abundance of greeneries right here. But right here in one spot, growing in this one spot, we have the desert mistletoe with the berries that are edible. We have cat claw acacia, which has edible seed pods. And then we also have the Palo Verde, which has the edible flowers and the seed pods raw when they're green, or dried, which can be made into a flour. I find it absolutely remarkable that in the middle of the desert, there is so much edibles and just waiting to be found. And actually under this tree, and I found it almost under every cat claw acacia tree, is greens. There's greens growing. So right in here, let's see, I think you guys can see behind me. Right here are some young Asian mustard greens, along with some grasses. So these Asian mustard greens can actually be eaten very young. They have very little thorns on them, So as they mature, you're not going to want to eat them past a maturing point. But these young greens that are found under all of these catclaw acacias, and the Asian mustards have these spiny leaves that come off of them. They're very similar to regular mustard leaves, but these Asian mustards are different in the fact that when they become mature, they can actually be toxic. So we don't want to eat these much later than very young greens. And even so, these are really just maybe a handful of them, and you'll want to do research on your own as well before harvesting and adding any Asian mustard greens into your diet. This is really a survival food and not something for long-term use. You're not going to want to come out into the desert and harvest these Asian mustard greens and incorporate them into your diet for long periods of time, simply because they have a high amount of nitrates in them. And this being in a wash, and we're in the middle of the desert, there's all sorts of things that are coming through this wash. There's farms, there's all sorts of things, and we just don't know what kind of minerals are in these washes. So little does it, great survival food, great amount for highly nutritious edibles into our bodies to get us going to the next space that we're going to. But again, not a long-term solution. But out of the desert mistletoe, we're going to try to make some fun things out of it. We're going to try to make a jelly. We're going to try to make some fun things and see how we can incorporate that into our lives and see what kind of nutrients that we can be adding just by simply finding a new wild edible in the middle of the desert. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you'd like to receive some of these amazing plants on your doorstep, visit our Patreon page and you can find out all the information about how to build your apothecary with the Nature Craft box that can be delivered to you monthly. We appreciate your support. Like, subscribe, and follow us, and continue to learn and enjoy the wild plants and edibles that are in your neighborhood as well.